Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and earn even more money. All in one place, and it's for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup looks like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. Best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since we discovered Spotify for Podcasters, we feel like having options like video podcasts, Q&A, and polls has let us be creative on a whole other level. I highly recommend you give it a try. So download Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. Welcome back, X's and T podcast fans. Danny here. And I just want to welcome everybody. If you're new here, hi, I'm Danny. I feel like I have to kind of reiterate this every time now since we have some new listeners. My podcast, the X's and T podcast, is a podcast where we talk about trauma. We talk about domestic violence awareness. We talk about abuse. We talk about toxic relationships. We also talk about anti-MLM content. I'm really excited because we have the opportunity to, again, help somebody share their story. And it never gets old and it never ceases to amaze me just what people have gone through. And I want to make a quick disclaimer because, yeah, you guys got it. We're talking about Worldwide Dream Builders. We have stories to tell and it will never cease to amaze me. Like I said, just how many people have gone through very, very similar things from this organization. So with that being said, hi, Worldwide. I know you're listening. I just want to say that I'm speaking on personal experiences, personal opinions, not here to defame you guys. To anybody out there who might be curious about Worldwide and wants to join Worldwide, like, hey, go do that. You do you. I definitely think that it's important to listen to people's stories ahead of time. You know, Amway's just a distribution company, might bring them up here and there. However, my beef is not with them. My beef is with Worldwide. It is with URA, BWW, LTD, any of these Amway tools businesses. Unfortunately, allegedly, Amway does co-sign some of this stuff, but it seems like a symbiotic relationship that allegedly neither of them want to be a part of. With that being said, don't sue me, okay? Opinions, personal experiences, allegedly. All right, those three words are key here. But I'm excited to introduce a new guest. This is somebody who's brand new to the podcast, has been a longtime fan to the show. I'd like to introduce to everybody my friend Lana. Hi, Lana. Lana. Hi, Lana.
Hi, Danny.
Sorry.
Lana's fine too. I get it all the time. No worries.
I get Danielle sometimes too, like Daniela, but they always forget the A at the end. So it's Danielle. So I feel you on that one. But welcome. Thank you so much for wanting to come on and share your story. I'm really shocked with your story. We have been corresponding for quite a long time. And I think you are the one person who has sent me the absolute most. And what's shocking is you are in the least amount of time. Like that speaks to the trauma that you've been through, which I can't even imagine. But again, thank you for your bravery and coming forward. So I have to know, how did you find the X's and T podcast?
Actually, my half sister found you on Zay and Melanie's Facebook page.
Shout out. If you guys aren't a part of this X Amway Facebook page that, yes, was absolutely pioneered by the amazing Zay and Melody. We still have this group active. If y'all want to join the community, please do. But I'm really glad that she found me and was able to introduce you to it. So she was not in Worldwide, but you were, correct?
I was. She was anti-Worldwide, anti-Amway. Most of my family was for nobody really had my back. And actually, some of my friends were quite nasty. And to this day, because of their nastiness, we are no longer friends.
Yeah, which I'm sure was tough because I can imagine that when you have like a friend and they're doing something that you don't like, it can be kind of challenging to navigate those waters to properly and really respectfully be like, hey, I'm not down for this. But I do think that there is, you know, even though they might have good intentions, I've definitely experienced people who are like, that's stupid. But in that moment, I was like, that's not stupid. And they're just attacking me as a person. So I totally get that. As far as the family support goes, I was very similar. My dad was like 1000% against it. And for her to have not given up on you, I love that. What is it that compels you to want to share your story?
It was just hearing the podcasts and the similarities, and then actually going through my messages, because for the longest time after I left, I just left, ghosted it, let everything cancel, ghosted my uplines, because it was, if I had a phone conversation with Allie, my upline, it wouldn't have gotten productive. It wouldn't have gotten anywhere, because what people don't realize, the same patterns that you see in DMs is the same patterns that they're going to have on the phone. Like, they like to bring up your patterns. They don't take a look at how they treat people, but yet they come down on you. If so much you step out, it seems like if you step out of line, they come down on you.
Yeah. No, that's so true. No, you're right. You sent me some of these DMs and it's just shocking to me. The deflection, the gaslighting, the straight up lying. It's repulsive. They're so deceitful. So, you guys, Lana is here and she is one of our friends to the north, depending on where you are. For me, it's north. So, she was under Dawn and Mary. If you guys are not familiar, if you're new here, Dawn and Mary, of course, these are not their real names. We change everybody's names because, again, we're not out here to ruin anybody's lives. Shout out worldwide. Remember, I said that. Dawn and Mary are the very first diamonds that broke in Canada. They sponsored Nolan and Rianne, who our good friend Hope was under and talked heavily about. If you know this.
It's always the prominent diamonds. It's always the, like, we're all aware of who they are because they're diamonds.
They're diamonds and they are like ruthless diamonds. Like, I think that Dawn and Mary, there's something about them, man. Like, I know that they created the process, so they're very pompous because the process was developed by them, of course, and then spread all throughout worldwide. They have this thing about them. Dawn's voice is something that has always stuck with me. Having had heard it so much, it's just almost triggering even to think about the way that he says shit. Like, for example, he teaches people how to manipulate others and how to do it in a way where he like turns it around, right? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, and you and Hope brought that up in your last in your podcast, and it is so true. And they don't teach you to be better people. You're duplicating everything that they do. Duplicate this blueprint that we are going to show you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know what's funny is usually the first sets of questions that I ask people have to do with their honeymoon phase. I'm going to say right now, y'all, Lana did not have a honeymoon phase. Like, it's insane. Like, so you were in for only 4 months, right? You said from when to when?
Okay, I include the process. And it's a continuation of the process. I had my meet and greet early May, and then towards the end of May, not even 20 days, I was offered a partnership.
Wow.
I had to read the compound effect and how it resonates with you, like to track your habits. I went to one function in May, and it was to be paraded around this emerald and this diamond, which was Mary. And then I met the emerald, Lee, and then Lee's husband Clinton. I didn't really meet him. They were just on the stage doing their board plan, and they've talked about like creating a pipeline, success, habits, and then they briefly touched on Amway and how they used it as a pipeline, and then they went back to like mindset, habits, the job, like really like the 9 to 5, like having a career. And
yeah,
I find when they do their little lives on like whatever platform, TikTok, Instagram, it's these concepts that they're taught, but you don't know that they're worldwide dream builders, worldwide group concept, the values, like they live by these values. These are their values. And like there's some things that you're drawn to the values, like healthy family, healthy marriages, but to the extent that they have those healthy marriages, I didn't read Love and Respect, but I did read excerpts from it, and I cringed.
That's horrible book. Yes, very dangerous book to be parading around and passing to your downline as if this is the end all be all for marriage.
Yeah.
Like that's but yeah, so going back to what you said, and we talked about this beforehand, and I really wanted you to say it because I love the way that you said it. It was you had the process and then you just carrying on the process. Like I've never heard it said like that, but it's so true. And the fact that it took 20 days, like they make it sound right. Like you guys, they tell us this is a 6-step process and this is a very like lengthy interview process. We want you guys to show us that you deserve an offer into business. Realistically, y'all, they're gonna offer everybody an offer into business.
And then when you change your mind, they call you a flake or a snowflake. Well, sorry, I'm not a flake. It's my life. It's my choice, what I want to do with it. And if they want to sit on their high horses and judge people, that's all the fine. Like I've got acquaintances who still follow these people, and they were saying like Brad was being hardcore. Like, if you're gonna sit down and watch Yellowstone, we have a right to judge you. That was my eagle, and then they went double eagle last year, and I think they moved up because somebody said that they saw pictures of them speaking on a stage.
Oh, okay. Got it. So quickly here, we're going to run down through your line of sponsorship here. So again, all of these names have been changed. These are not their real names. These are not in correlation to anybody else who's in the business who might or may not have these names. They're just random names that we picked on the spot. So we've got Dawn and Mary. We kind of went over that. If y'all have heard before, y'all know who Dawn and Mary are.
When Hope brought up Dawn and Mary, I knew who the hell she was talking about. It was like, oh God, not these two.
Right, right.
People. Oh, they're fucking pompous. Pardon my language.
No,
like,
don't
I get
even.
so
We do that here.
angry at times still.
It's true. And then below Dawn and Mary, these were your emeralds, right? This was Lee and Clinton. I don't know anything like really that's defining about them, but if y'all know emeralds below Dawn and Mary, you'll know who Lee and Clinton are. And then there was your Eagles, who maybe went double eagle, and that was Allie and Brad. Again, not their real names, not derived from anybody else in the business, random. So, so Brad, you said, had continued to make these remarks, and that's really frustrating.
Yeah, or even going to a hockey game and wearing a jersey, like they make the reflection, oh, your wife is wearing a jersey, another guy's name on it.
Yes. We're not wrong. Holy shit, I forgot about that. But you're right. They do that. And that's the stuff, you guys, that we're not told in the beginning. Was any of this disclosed to you, like this type of behavior when you were in the process? Did you see this up front, or was this not stuff that you saw until after you got sponsored?
After I was in, it was like to spend less time on social media. So
during the process, it was all hunky dory, right? And like, oh, we love you, love bombing. But then when you're sponsored,
it changes. It changes. Like there was all kinds of love bombing. Like at first, I thought the organization was really good because there was a rally that I went to in June, and I was having a panic attack, and one girl was helping me breathe just because all these people were smothered around Leslie, and like Lee, and they were all smothered around her, and they had their phones in her face, and they had like some people were holding like 2 or 3 phones recording what she was saying.
Yeah, night owling. If you guys aren't familiar, that's where we would stay after functions or even before functions, and we'd go up to the higher pin levels. We could really only do this to Eagles and above, where you hold your phone up in their face and they're supposed to say something magical, and you're going to record it and you're going to go back and listen to it, even if they're cross-line, but we're not supposed to apply anything that cross-line says. It's so dumb, but you're not wrong. It really happens, and it's overwhelming. I'm glad that somebody was there to help you through that. So when you were going through this process, you said that you had to read the compound effect, you had to go to some functions. When in your process, because it was, so you say 20 days, so what, maybe like 3 weeks, when in the process did you know it was Amway and Worldwide? Like, how long did it take for you to find out that information?
It was like, I think it's like the second or third meeting, because you have your meet and greet, and then they bring up the book, and then going through the audios, and then the follow up with the audios. Went to the Shell Conference Center, got paraded before the Emeralds and the Diamonds, and then I was offered a partnership, and then I had my launch. Right in June, so it was like so fast. It was so fast.
That is fast. And that's not fair for them to make it so fast. And I'm glad to hear it was within at least like it could have been the second meeting. But you have to imagine the third meeting, y'all. The third meeting, like you're going and being groomed for 2 meetings where you're like almost, I don't want to say falling in love like romantically, but you're becoming so infatuated with these people. Like, oh my God, they're so nice. They're saying all these nice things to me. They're love bombing me. I'm enjoying this. And you're already wrapped in by the time they say, oh, this is Amway and this is Worldwide. That was as of just last year, you guys. Like this happened to Lana last year, and that's fucked up in my opinion. And by the time you had found out that it was Amway and Worldwide, did you have any knowledge of what Amway was beforehand?
I knew about Amway because I knew people like back in the 90s. Like I'm older, and I'm older, but I knew people who were in it back in the 90s, and it was the same kind of hype from the meetings, but it was only like brief interactions. I bought a perfume off like one girl in the 90s, like in the late 90s.
But even still, I'm sure that especially with the way that they present it, they're like, oh, well, you may have heard about this before, but you haven't seen it this way. So they really try to destigmatize that, the word Amway. Did they talk about Amway a lot after your process, or really heavily like talk about the company themselves? Or was it more so just worldwide BS and then, oh, buy Amway products?
It was buy Amway products, a lot of worldwide BS, and try to build up clientele because of what happened with the
Yeah.
pandemic and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, like with like I was like this was like 2 years after the pandemic at this time. Things were starting to open up, but they were still kind of like building up a clientele. And but also too, like Ali brought up mindset first, then the business, but yet pushing to build up clientele. And what stuff I did have for samples, people weren't impressed. Like I wanted to start off small, see how it went. Like September, I was gonna start doing like more into the PVB, like more like buy more products for the point volume and that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But after like from July, like the end of July, August, and everything, it was just like, okay, you can't renege on your commitments, but yet you want me to break my lease.
Yeah, yeah, let's go into that for a minute. So we've kind of learned a little bit about how your process went. And oh, real fast, actually, before we go into that real quick, I forgot. How did you learn about Worldwide? Like where were you at in your life when they found you?
Well,
And then who
it
found you?
actually I wasn't spear hunted. These Ali and Brad are traditional business owners, and they were offering to help people start a business. It was for e-commerce, but it was in actuality, oh yeah, they would mentor you, help you out, do the whole coaching, but it was for the downline, to build the downline, and then you have to build your downline, like because you're gonna have to coach and mentor these people. It's duplicating the process. And I think they got their traditional business, like they've been in the business for probably about 12 or 13 years. And I think they got their traditional business about 5 years ago. And I'm not going to get into what type of traditional business they have, but
Sure.
that type of business needs a lot of startup capital. Like I'm not stupid. I know about business plans. I know people who were business owners. And that was talked about during the meet and greet. So I knew I've done my research. I know what I'm talking about. And their type of business, you either need to have a lot of investors or a lot of startups.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's crazy because and I don't know if this happened while you were in, but I know that Upline would always say that they would coach people to drop their traditional businesses. So it's interesting to hear that there are still people who are upline who are keeping their businesses and even starting new businesses while they're in the business. That is deceptive. Also, in regards to deception, they presented this as if they were business owners trying to help you start like an actual business.
Yeah, continue with your business, or to like maybe provide ideas like where to get like startup financing capital, you know what I mean, like just
Yeah.
a little bit of networking or mentorship. And I know there is that out.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. So, was there ever any indication mentioned to you guys that platinums and above were allegedly getting paid for on these memberships, like a piece of the pie, if you will, or getting paid to speak?
I didn't know that until I saw something in Zaya's videos, allegedly, of course.
Okay, Lana's got our back.
Yeah, like I said, allegedly. And I was like, and it was just like, wow. And it's like, where is my money going? Like, where is the money going?
It's a good, valid question, and again, like it's so insane. It is. So okay, so met these people that you expected to teach you about actual business. They did not teach you about actual business. What were you doing at the time when you were introduced to these people? Like, what
I
were you
was
doing? And
working in customer care, doing odd gig work on the side, just to because of the pandemic and everything. It was just like lots of people got laid off during the pandemic. It hurt them financially. And I joined post pandemic. And see, I'm wondering with people pre-pandemic, like how many people like in their downlines were pushing them. And these guys are waiting for unemployment benefits. They're on like how much of them like pressure on the dittos, like how much pressure on the membership. Like that is like easily $800 that can go somewhere else.
yeah, definitely. I mean, you're not wrong. I've heard people express that during COVID, and this is on the Facebook page, of course, that people have said like, hey, like, yeah, they used COVID to their advantage to basically tell people to spend their so in the US we had some people had unemployment, some people didn't. Some people Like a lot of people got stimulus checks and they're expected to put that into their business. And that's really frustrating to kind of look back at. And I know that you had experienced, this was of course post pandemic, but you experienced a lot of pressure after you had joined the business. And I know that you said the first thing that really impacted your decision, was it about moving or was it your family member? Can you correct me and kind of tell us a little bit about what that kind of looked like?
Okay, so first of all, like it was just some of the stuff like I was listening to like in their messaging system. And then also too, I asked my sponsors, my uplines were Brad and Allie, and they spent time away in 2021 out of country. I'm not going to say where, again, that is their business. They spent about quite a good chunk of time away out of Canada. And when you look at the cost of living out of country, the cost, and you still maintained your home in Canada, like you still had to pay your rent, you still had, like, even though the utilities were off, you still had to pay heat. How were they financing that? And Brad said that their traditional business, that was from their traditional business, but yet they focus on this business, like how it gives you so much freedom. Okay, if it gave you so much freedom, why are you doing your traditional business? And it is cultish. First of all, why all the secrecy with the meet and greet? Like, why can't they just tell you it's Amway and Worldwide Group? And why do they have private groups to sell the products? And also too, when you look at their websites and their pages, it's life coach, entrepreneurial mentorship, financial advice, like financial coaching. Like, who made these guys expert?
You're right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I agree with you. Why the secrecy?
Yeah,
Why
and
why can't we talk about it? But no, you're totally right. A lot of the things that they do are super toxic and double standards. I'm still shocked that your Eagles were allowed to go out of the country. We were always told you don't go on vacation or go anywhere until you are platinum or above. So it's really
yeah,
interesting that
yeah,
these folks were out of town.
they still run their business. They even did a business while they stayed in that country, because
Oh,
I
that's
saw a list of like that
wild.
country, but for that country's market. And I saw a list because I have friends that live overseas. I've got family that live overseas, and I said, can I reach out to them and do stores in these markets for potential clients? And they said, oh yeah, just run it by us first.
Yeah, which is insane. So I want to go back to something that you said because I've never heard this before. You said they have private groups to sell products. Can you kind of go on a little bit more into that? What did that
Well,
look
they
like?
have
I'm so
private
curious.
social media groups to sell their products.
No way. And this is based on just your personal experience.
Yep.
Wow.
And
See, you guys personal experience. But that's crazy. I've never heard of that. But it doesn't surprise me.
if you're so legitimate and not shady, why do you have things to hide? Like, their traditional business makes like upwards in the millions. And they say there's times where they couldn't get paid because of fraud. They couldn't take an owner's salary, like an owner's wage. And okay, but you got your worldwide, you got your Amway business. They know how much money you make, but how much money are they making? Like, how much money are they raking? And they've got you on this tight ass budget, but how much money are they making? Like, they want you to move to a shitty ass apartment in order to save money, but also to pour money into your ditto and have a healthy ditto and have a retail side to your business, like they have products on hand in case to give them out. Like, are you actually giving away more products for people to try than they're actually gonna buy?
Yeah. So, wow. Yeah. So, okay. So these were some of the red flags that you started to see. When was it getting to be a little too much when you're just like, this is not good?
It was when I got a text message from my aunt. We are co-guardians of a mentally challenged individual, and not just mentally challenged, just like also mental health aspects. We have to follow certain things with the doctors, and a home or a care facility right now is out of the question because
Yeah.
and that was because of COVID and how these people were being treated. They weren't being properly looked after. They were just stuck in the rooms by themselves, had their food shoved in. And what happens if it was a senior that had dexterity issues? They couldn't take the plastic off their teacup.
That's such a good point, but you're not wrong. And the way that they treated you
Oh,
with this situation just irks the hell out of me
oh yeah, I can't
because
renege on my commitment. Well, he's going through cancer screening. And then it was just, well, you got to hire somebody, or you got to find a solution because the business comes first before anything. And that's what I got. And then family reunion. My car, like the car. broke down. And I was like by myself on the side of the highway waiting for somebody to come get me. Like somebody offered to call me a tow truck and told me into Red Deer. I said, no, the vehicle's being taken back to where it came.
Yeah, that's scary by yourself. And what was their response to this?
Oh, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Because yeah, I opened up my data a bit for the messaging app that we were using, and it was just like, okay, I'm not wasting my data right now. I'm not wasting my battery. And then when we got home, it was like, well, I haven't seen you. Are you okay? Like, well, can you listen virtually? Like, my nerves were shot. Like, I was a rat, and they didn't seem to care. And also, too, there was periods where my arrhythmia was acting up. Oh, take a supplement for that. And I still had to plow through and attend a virtual. And I think it was a training that night. And I had my mentally challenged uncle over. And it was just like, that was another one. That was another one. Like being told by my doctor, like, this is okay, but you got to pace yourself. And it seemed like it was in one ear and out the other. Oh, you're learning to stretch yourself.
That's insane. Breaking down in your car is nerve-wracking enough, let alone trying to figure out how to get it back home, then waiting for that person to be able to come and take it back home. And then you have these health issues yourself. And they're telling you to take what Crip double X or whatever the fuck it's called to somehow help it, even though you probably have a doctor handling the situation, they somehow know better. And then also you have this person that you have to take care of who has developmental disabilities, who has mental health issues. Like this is somebody that you have cared enough about to be able to take care of. That's such a big, huge commitment that you made because you care and they
Yeah.
didn't care.
Yeah, and but yet they bring up, oh, we're all doing the same thing, but in different capacities, but we're still managing. We're still
Right.
managing our businesses. Well, I'm sorry, but this individual is way more important than this business.
Yeah, for real. I mean, that takes a lot, like developmental disabilities in addition to mental health disabilities. This is something that is very serious and needs a lot of attention. And it just makes me so mad that they said that
Oh,
to you.
yeah, my mom had MS. My mom had MS. And that wasn't easy. And then her, like my dad was abusive. My dad's got a record for spousal abuse. Like that's like the toxicity I grew up in, and to break all these habits that I picked up and to continue learning. And I think that's another way why I was drawn in as part of like my change and my growth, because they brought up like really good points about the mindset, about change and about growth. But how they do it is so toxic. It is so
Yeah.
toxic. And it's like if you're not 100% in, you have to be like all in or all out. There's nothing like in between.
Yeah, it's
And if
all or nothing.
yeah, and if Allie would have said, "Hey, you know what? I understand what's going on. You know what? When things are better, reach out to me," and said, "Oh, you can't renege on your commitments," and I wouldn't do the same. Like, excuse me? Like that still rubs me the wrong way. Or like when I was getting out, like my mind was pretty much already made up. A legitimate reason. It was all these reasons why I left, and like I was dealing with a sick fur baby, a sick cat. And this cat like touched so many people's lives. We did pet therapy. She would go into water, and I had to explain my grief to her. Kind of like, and there was a reason why like I started like, oh, how do I get into this? I sent her screenshots from Zay and Melanie's videos, and that was the thing she kept focusing on. It was a number of things. She said I was all over the place. Like my reason for leaving was changing. No, it was a number of reasons. Like the business wasn't working out, and that's how it started off. And then it was every single little reason why I just left. It was
Yeah.
everything. And if I had that phone call with her, I would have talked to her about this, but then it wouldn't have gotten anywhere because it would have been back to the diversion. I kind of like what would happen. She said, "I hope I've done nothing to cause you not to trust me." And I said, "Honestly, I don't think so." And that was the agreeable part. Like you have to agree with these guys. Like, and if you're not agreeable on that level and agreeable with them, like how they think, their mindset, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And
Yeah.
that's why I didn't
Oh my
call.
gosh, right.
That's why I didn't call Allie. That's why I didn't call her, because of how the pattern in the messages were. And you saw that pattern.
Yeah. No, I did. And that's really frustrating. I mean, you had every right to question what was going on. I mean, Zay and Melody, their videos, in my opinion, are always going to be relevant. I think that they really pioneered this whole, anti-worldwide, anti-Amway,
I think
fire.
I think what they did was they opened up people's eyes to like what really goes on behind the scenes in these organizations, because you don't know. You don't know what happens. You don't know what goes on. You don't know the tactics. You don't have to listen to like these messages or like the audios, like how is going to a function, rallies, how is listening to these audios helping me? All I hear is
Yeah.
the same regurgitated stuff from the rallies but in audio, and it just like, pardon my language, but it's like the same shit but different pile.
And I have to agree. I want to go back to the way that they responded to you, because I think that that holds a lot of weight in how toxic they really can be. So you guys have to listen to me. She was in for 4 months, start to finish. Process to when she decided to get out. 4 months, you guys. She had no honeymoon phase. They were telling her that she couldn't focus on her family commitments. They weren't focusing on her mental health. They weren't focusing on her actual physical health. She had a pet. And at the time when it passed away, they did not take it seriously, which
I sent her pictures. Like, I had to deal with this while I was at work.
so those are your fur babies. Those are literally your family. So to sit there and tell somebody that, like, oh, like that's not serious enough.
Like, Allie noticed like my attitude change towards her. Yes, I got distance because I had a lot going on. And again, I wasn't avoiding or anything. It was just I had a lot going on. This was more important. Like, I was prioritizing what was important to me. They want to bring up prioritization. Like, to them, taking care of a sick kid and listening to a Kate to prioritize your Kate. It's like, what? You should be focusing
Yeah.
on that child. Screw the Kate. Get
Yeah,
some
no, I agree
sleep.
with you. You're
Like,
so right.
yeah, like, or doing stuff in between, like with your kids, like, oh, you're taking your kids somewhere to like something, but all at the same time you're also spear hunting and prospecting at the same time.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? And I just thought about this, but I always wonder. So we're kind of getting into this era where we're talking about kids and social media and how they are just being exposed, and there's no rules and there's no way of
Oh,
like protecting them. It's like, what about worldwide kids? How embarrassing is it to be like, mom, like stop, like mom, like we don't have to talk to this guy, like let's go.
yeah, but they raise their kids. Like, I know I'm not going to get into my upline situation, but they limit the amount of time certain family members around their daughter because of what the family was saying to their daughter. So now they have to like there's nothing wrong with boundaries, but these type of
Yeah.
boundaries, like how often like are these family members going to see the daughter? Like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
say what capacity, what the relationship to the daughter is, like if it's a cousin, you know what I mean? I'm just using this as an example. Or they're vetting the kids around their kids and the people around them. Yeah, you know what? As if like I didn't bring this up to Allie and Brad, but I did raise my goddaughter, and yeah, I was careful who she was around, but also at the same time, I allowed her like normalcy. I didn't isolate her. I didn't have her like bringing her up in this other environment, and that is another sign of like cultish, like being insular, like being very isolated. And that's what they do to you, because I felt isolated, like I had no family support, how certain people reacting. I just felt so isolated, and that's what they want, is so you go to them. They want you to go to them, but then when you do, then they'll throw certain things back at you when you go to them. Like, I'm just tired of like,
Yeah.
that was one thing Allie was saying, oh, we noticed you have healthy relationships. Like, can you teach me how to have a healthy relationship, how to communicate? Like, excuse me? Like again, like what makes these guys experts? And then like they like to say nobody's perfect, but that only applies
Yeah.
to them. It doesn't apply to you.
Yeah, exactly. And when you were leaving, you were very cut and dry in your messages that you were like, I'm done. Like this is going on
I don't owe
as
you an
far as
explanation.
exactly. You really didn't, but you gave them more than enough. Like it got to the point where I feel like I was reading your messages and you're just kind of like, I'm done. Like you could tell that like you were being so polite too, more polite than I think I would have been for sure. But you guys, these messages are so toxic. And she did a lot of voice recording. Like, why? I get it. Maybe you're busy and you're so used to sending fucking Kate messages, but come on. In none of these
And you saw
messages did she take
and you
responsibility.
saw like you saw the conversions, and they weren't
Hmm.
tampered with. You heard some of the audios, like you pretty much saw everything that happened, and it was a lot of information.
It was 4 months, you guys. She was harassed basically from the moment she got sponsored until the time she left. The expectations that they laid was so unfair and unrealistic. I remember that you said too that they were trying to get you to
like
move.
and you got to hold yourself to a high standard. Like, she brought that up to me, like, there's holding yourself to a high standard, but again, You have to be very realistic. They wanted me to move in a new job in 30 days and yet do everything else on top of it. I told this to my upline. You are literally like a hamster on a hamster wheel. Well, it's life. It's the business. You're going to be like that if you have a traditional business. I think with a
Yeah.
traditional business, people have got more control.
Yeah, definitely. Like you have so much more control. They make you sound like in worldwide, like Amway is your business. You're an IBO, independent business owner. But then when shit doesn't go the way that they want it to, they remind you, at least they did for me, oh, your platinum actually owns your business until you break off as a platinum. And it's not your choice.
Like the two people I knew who were interested, but when they saw what was going on, it was like, are you going to be like that to us? Are you going to be like, you're turning it to somebody we don't know anymore?
Wow, yeah. Such
Like
a good point.
there's positive change, yes, and positive growth, but this wasn't like positive change and positive growth. This was like manipulation and and teaching manipulation and applying manipulation, like
Yeah.
big time. And I know that was brought up on your podcast, and they teach you this stuff. It's like not about being a better person. They're duplicating you to be like them, to be exactly like them, carbon copies of them. That's all I saw was carbon copy.
And you're not wrong. You are not wrong because it's so true. You see, like you said, what is the point of listening to all the audios? You eventually just start regurgitating the bullshit that you're hearing, just like the same shit all over again. And it's too much. And it's frustrating again. Like I am still blown away by the fact that this was only 4 months. Some people don't see this until like a year in, and you saw it immediately. Like, how shitty are these people to have done this to you?
And the thing is, they're not the bad ones. You are, and you saw that in the messages, like how cruel I was to Ali. I wasn't cruel. Yes, I was distant, but I wasn't being cruel. I was dealing with stuff, and then, well, I made myself available to you, yes, and I was going to talk to you, but I'm dealing with stuff right now. Like they take everything so personally, and it's like they can't handle it. Like their fragile egos cannot handle it.
You're not wrong. And it's so frustrating. So what did it look like when you were finally like done? Like, did you have to block their number?
My psychologist told me to block him because on the 31st, we went through every single DM. My psychologist, my sister, my aunt is aware of a lot of the stuff. She heard it because my psychologist brought her in. We were just flabbergasted. There was a message saying I had a relationship with Mary. I met Mary twice. That was bullshit.
Seriously, when I read that, I was like, what the fuck? Like, of course, you're not going to trust Mary. You don't know her. You know jack shit about her. She's supposed to know everything about you, but you don't know anything that happens in Mary's life.
Oh, I know. Like they brought up my experience with them, and like look at how we were. Like, how can you believe like Zay and Melanie's videos? Like, you know Lee, you know Clint, you spent time with us. Yeah, board plans interacted like via the messaging system and on the one messaging app that wasn't the one paid for, but that isn't really spending time. To me, that isn't spending time. That's like all business stuff and like gross stuff. Like, I don't know you guys. I didn't spend actual time with you. Like, did I do a road trip with you guys to a function like you did with two people, like when they went to Saskatchewan in July? Like, they'll drive to these, like, wherever they're doing board plans, like, especially if they're out of town, they'll go, and they'll do like carpooling. But yet, if there's a local function, like, how do you get there? Like, there can't be no excuses. There's got to be solutions. So like flex cars if you drive, or borrow a vehicle, or take the bus. And then how are you going to get around Calgary? Like, family reunion, like, and the cost of the hotel, the cost of parking, the transportation. Am I going to be using public transportation? Am I going to be using a cab? Am I going to be using a rental?
It's all of these things that just, it makes up such a horrible experience. And I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I'm so grateful that you came on here and spoke all of this. I hope everybody heard you, because you're right. There's so much to worldwide. And I think everybody needs to listen and to learn. And again, if you want to join these people, like, have at it, live your life.
Go ahead. I don't support this. I don't support this.
Not at all. No, but thank you so much for your time. Again, for supporting us. I mean, you and I, we have been in communication for a long time, and I cannot thank you enough for your support and for your bravery truly for coming on and speaking on this topic. I know it's not always easy, but you are much appreciated.
Thank you. You are appreciated too.
Well, thank you. So if you guys want to be like Lana, if you guys want to share your story, please send me a DM on Instagram at xsandT.podcast. You guys can follow on TikTok as well as YouTube. We're also now available on Google Podcasts and Amazon Podcast Music. Stay tuned. If you have a story to share, it doesn't even have to be MLM. If you have a traumatic experience that you want to share, or if you even just want to like, hey, send me a DM, I'm open. Like, send me a DM. I would love to talk to you. And I hope you feel empowered. I hope you know that we here support you. You're all welcome here. So thanks again, everybody. I really appreciate you guys. We will see y'all in the next episode.